Are you lost in the chaotic whirlwind of day-to-day busyness? Do you yearn for a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in your life? Welcome to Be You, Your Story, Your Purpose, the podcast dedicated to empowering women on their journey of self-discovery and finding their true purpose through their own story. I'm your host, Brenda Simmons. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast today. I'm so glad that you have joined me today. I wanted to start off today by sharing some stories, some experiences that I've had, and the things that I've heard and things that I've been involved in. And because as I was going through them this last week, I just noticed a theme to them. And so typically when things like that pop up over and over again, I try to listen to them. And so I wanted to share a little bit with you about what I've learned. So this first thing happened when I was listening to a webinar. The webinar had a guest on there, and I'm not even sure the name of the webinar off the top of my head, but they had a guy on there. His name is John Israel, and he set a goal to send 5 thank you cards every single day for an entire year. Now, this guy is just a gift salesman for Cutco, so not anything super big, but he just decided that this is something that he wanted to do. And so this webinar talked about, he explained, what his process was for doing that and how difficult it was and some of the opportunities that came from it. And ultimately, it was just such a really cool experiment that he had because it opened his mind to what gratitude can do. So that's my first example. My second example came from a podcast that I really like to listen to. It's called The Art of Manliness. And I am not a man, but I really like this podcast because I think it teaches a lot of really great principles that our society has lost in when it comes to being a man. So, and it's really applicable to anybody. So I really like it. So, the guest on that podcast is Brian Grazer. Now, Brian Grazer is a Hollywood producer. He produced the movie Splash, Apollo 13. So he's kind of a big deal. He also is the co-author of A Curious Mind Expanded Edition, The Secret to a Bigger Life. Now, he mentioned his book in this podcast, but what I really liked about what he told is how he kind of got started. He was, he actually got a law degree, and so he was kind of just working the route. He was in LA, and he decided that he would have what he called curiosity conversations. Again, this totally intrigued me. And because I thought, well, what's a curiosity conversation? And he went on to explain, what they are. I mean, just 10, 15 minutes, just really being truly curious about the person he's in front of, and being intentional about meeting with people to have these small curiosity conversations. And this is something that he would do every single day. And he did this for years and years and years. And he explained how amazing it was because it opened up a lot of opportunities that he normally would not have had simply by having curiosity conversations regularly. So another one is James Lawrence. And I don't know if any of you have heard of this guy. He calls himself the Iron Cowboy. And I'm actually related to him by marriage, although I've never really had a conversation. Well, I have, but I'm closer with his wife than to him. But he decided several years ago that he would do 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 states. And so I'll never forget when he did this because we followed his progress every single day on what he was doing and how difficult it was. And he had this whole entourage that would follow him. And later on, he decided he would do 100 consecutive Ironmans in the same location. So he didn't have the complexity of travel, but still to do 100 Ironmans consecutively in 100 days that's a pretty amazing feat. Now, this last story might throw you for a loop. You might be thinking, oh, I think I know what she's talking about, but let's see if I throw you off. So last weekend I did an open house because I'm a realtor, and I walked into this open house and I was substituting for a friend who couldn't be there. And so I walk into this home, meet the guy, super nice guy, and he's selling his townhome. And as I go through this home, this guy has purple everywhere. He's got the plushest purple carpet that you have ever put your feet on. It's got purple walls, even a lavender ceiling, purple decorations. And you even open up the garage, and inside the garage is a purple Model T Ford, like total antique, shiny purple, actually a beautiful car. Now it was all tastefully done, but he, you could tell, really, really loved purple. So what do all of these things have in common? Did you guess it? Well, it's all about being committed. And in each one of these stories, the people who did it or who were taking action had truly committed to something that brought joy and brought fulfillment to their lives. And so I wanted to talk with you a little bit about that. Like, what is that process to become truly committed to something? And, I mean, I think you have to start out with, okay, well, what are things that you can be committed to? I mean, and maybe this is an obvious question, but I think there's a lot of different ways that you could interpret this. You can commit to a habit, you can commit to a lifestyle, you can commit to a business, you can commit to a relationship. Obviously the relationship is a little bit trickier because you are committing to another person who, can put in some different dynamics there too. But that doesn't mean that your commitment necessarily needs to be different. So, what does it take to truly be committed to something? And so this is what I want to talk to you about. What are those steps that you take that really tell yourself that you are committed to something? Because we make goals and we make, say yes to things, but really in our heart we may not be all in. So what does it take to be all in? Well, number one, I think you need to know what it is that you want. So just like in these examples, all of these people knew, oh, I want to be this type of person, or I want to accomplish this goal, or I want to surround myself with the beauty that I consider to be beautiful. So this is kind of a dreaming and scheming phase, is what I'd like to call it. Where you toss around different ideas, you see what feels right. And maybe it's something that has been nagging you for a long time, and you're just like, I just got to do this. Like this idea won't go away, so I just need to do that. Like that's how it was with my podcast. It just would not go away. And so I was like, okay, I'm either in or out. I've got to make that decision. And that's the point. In the end, you've got to make a decision on what it is that you actually want to commit to. And this might mean that you kick some things out. And that's totally fine. That's what this process is for, is really to decide what is it that you want to commit to and turn everything else away. So number two is to make a plan for how you're going to be committed. How are you going to show up in that commitment? It is really important to make a plan. Like I have got a friend who said, if you plan to fail, or if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And this is totally true. However, there is a caveat here. I don't know about you, but sometimes I get stuck in the planning phase. I really like to put plans in place. I like to put things on the calendar, and I like to make it all pretty and say, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it. And I get so excited. The planning feels productive and it's important. It's really important. However, it is not the part that ultimately brings you results. So don't get stuck in that planning phase. What I would do to help you to be able to move forward with your plan is to review your plan with someone who can give you honest feedback. Have an accountability buddy. Like those people are super, super important in helping you to commit to your plan. Now, the card guy who sent out the 5 thank you cards every day, that's exactly what he did. He took his plan to his business coach and he said, hey, this is what I want to do. And what was interesting is his business coach gave him some really great feedback. And I'm going to get into that in just a second, because number 3 is to know yourself. So you need to have accountability if you're the type of person that deals with challenges better when you have that accountability. Not everybody needs this. I've got a daughter who is just totally, I said I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it no matter what. And my other daughter takes more after me, and we do better if we have that accountability partner. If we've got somebody checking up on us, and there's nothing wrong with either scenario. What's really important is just knowing who you are. How do you operate? What are the best things to help you to safeguard against not doing, against justifying your inaction? So like I said, this card guy, his name, remember, is John Israel. So he took his plan to his business coach, and the business coach said, okay, well, what are you going to do if you don't do it? Your goal is to do this every single day. And he said, well, I'm going to give $100 to my favorite charity for every day that I miss. And his accountability coach said, well, I think you need to add a zero. And he was like, what? No way. That's $1,000. There's no way that I would do that. And he goes, that's how you know that it's the right amount. Because if it's not going to trigger you to do something that's painful for you, you will find excuses to do it. And so he agreed with his coach that that's what he would do. And you know what? He didn't miss a day because he didn't want to spend $1,000 every single time he missed a day. And so he had a perfect record. So know yourself. If you need to have those fail safes in place, do it. Another example of this, I have a friend who has the most luxurious red hair. It is just beautiful. It's got volume to it. It's the kind of hair that you just go, okay, I would love to have hair like that. Well, she had a goal one year to lose some weight, to be at a certain scale, right, weight by a certain time. And she posted this on social media. And she said, if I don't make my goal, then I'm going to cut my hair. And yeah, I mean, just insert audible gasp. No, you can't do that. And she said, yeah, I'm absolutely going to do that. But she said, I don't want that. I desperately don't want that. And so I'm going to do all that I can to make my goal. And she was really good about posting regularly how she was doing, and what her weight was at the time, and where she was, and she made her goal. And it was super cool to watch that process. Like, she was totally committed to that. Now, I have another caveat for an accountability partner. You need to make sure that you choose somebody who isn't too close to the situation. So I would even say, don't make this accountability partner a spouse or a partner or somebody that is too close to you, because you kind of get one extreme or the other, right? So you either get, oh, you're doing great, it's okay, you're going to be just fine, just keep going, or you're going to you're never going to make this. This is not possible for you. I don't believe in you. And so, and it's not a dig against people who are close to us. That's just how it tends to go. And so you need to find somebody who is going to shoot straight with you and go, okay, well, I see these pitfalls, but I also see that you can totally accomplish this. What is it that you need to put in place to actually do this? And really be honest with you and open about that with you. So choose your accountability partner wisely. Now, if you're also the kind of person, or maybe the project or whatever it is you're committing to is kind of a bigger deal, you may need to have support people in place. So think of this Iron Cowboy James Lawrence, who did these 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 states. Like, there's no way he could have done that on his own. He needed to have a driver. He actually had a medical a medical professional with him, and helping him and making sure that he was physically capable of doing this. And so all of those people had to be put into place before he even started that. And so be aware of, if you're committing to something that requires other people, then you need to have those people in place before you start. Okay, so number four then is to be committed every day. Now that seems like, well, of course you do. But what I mean by this is just because you have a plan in place doesn't mean that necessarily that you make the time for it every day. And so that's my challenge to you is to look at that commitment as something that is part of your daily plan. So for example, if you have a commitment to build a strong relationship with your children. What are you then doing every single day to build and to build that relationship and to be committed to that goal? So if you don't make time for that every single day, then we tend to push it off and push it off and push it off until finally months and months have gone by and you've not really accomplished anything. And so make sure that you make time for whatever it is that you're doing every single day. Now, sometimes we're going through that and it's really easy to do it every day because we're motivated and sometimes the activity itself is fun and that's what keeps us going. But there may be days when you're like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to the gym today. It's snowing. Like that was me all last week. Like I don't want to go to the gym. It's snowing again. It snowed every single day. And that was just a total motivation killer. And so that's my point. Motivation will only get you so far. So it is a mental game and it really is where the character is built. So approach every day with curiosity, with wonder, with excitement, and really have work on a good attitude towards having this commitment. Now, that may seem weird, like obvious, right? Or maybe it's but my point is like not every day is going to be the same. There's some days that you're totally not going to be excited to do what you do. So you've got to have those things in place, including your attitude. That is something that you decide. And it reminds me of I used to teach a children's choir. So much fun. I just totally loved doing this. And I loved choosing songs that had good influence on the children. And one of the songs that I chose was called Attitude is Everything. And it goes like this. Attitude is everything. Take a good one where you go. It's up to you to keep a happy mood. And everything depends upon your attitude. Isn't that so fun? I totally loved teaching this song. And it's just one of those that stuck in my brain. But what it teaches is true. If you have a good attitude about what you're committed to, you're going to approach that with a higher energy, and that's going to help you to do what you want to do. All right, the last one is to keep in mind that your commitment is really a reflection of your identity. So if you go back to the Iron Cowboy, like he called himself the cowboy because he would do these Ironmans with a cowboy hat. And so that's kind of just what came of that. But he had a name for himself, the Iron Cowboy. And so what does an Iron Cowboy do? Well, he does Ironmans. And so what's he going to do to push himself to the next level? And so because that was part of his identity, it was then easier for him to stick with it. Our card guy, what he calls himself? He calls himself Mr. Thank You. I love that so much. Mr. Thank You, because he gives thank you cards every single day. I just think that's so fantastic. I've got a friend, she's another realtor. She wears high heels every day. She is the high-heeled realtor. That's what she calls herself. I've got a good friend who is a health insurance salesman, and he calls himself the happy health insurance guy. And he really is happy. And it's so fun to see how he embodies that moniker. And so because these people have taken on these different identities, it's a lot easier for them to be super focused on what they're trying to accomplish. And it's just really interesting to see how that identity has turned into a true commitment to what they're doing. Because remember, motivation will only get you so far. And, I've talked about this in my podcast on identity a couple weeks ago. And so once that muscle gets tired, you've got to have other things in place to help you push through those difficult days. All right, so keep that end goal in sight. It's not just a completion, it really is a becoming through the journey itself. And I so hope that you enjoyed this podcast. I would love to hear the comments or questions that you may have, or if there's a topic or person you'd like to hear from, please let me know in the comments. I read every single one of them. I would really be curious to know what you guys are super interested in as you're finding your own purpose to learn a little bit more about. Please like and subscribe and even leave a review. I just so appreciate that. And sharing this podcast, it is the greatest compliment to me. So thank you so much for doing that. And until next time, just know that your purpose is found in your story. There is a whole reason for your life. Take care. Until next time, we'll see you. Bye.
Celebrate your dreams, let them take flight, for you are a star, shining bright in every step you take. Let your